My name is Noel Livingston. I'm one of the founding members of the Toronto Black Farmers Collective.
I'm Jacqueline Dwyer, and I am the other founding member of the Toronto Black Farmers Collective. Today, we'll be sharing with you tips and application and how you substitute products for produce, and also how you extend their shelf life in your kitchen. In Canada, here that we um, we live in a seasonal climate, and so we eat seasonally. And a lot of the things that we bring to Canada, one of them is our food. And so a lot of people from the tropical environment and the equatorial environment, they're used to certain produce like pumpkins and scallions that looks a certain way, and they use it to make particular dishes. When we come here or we migrate here, we're looking for these things. And they are other produce that you can use, that you can substitute for those. But we kind of don't like to explore in terms of our food culture, so we kind of just stick to what we know. One of that produce that we use a lot of, particularly in the fall, are pumpkins and squash. In Jamaica, where I am from, we eat a lot of pumpkins. We use it to make soup, we bake with it, we make pudding, we make juice with it, and all these things. Here in Canada, the reverse of that are the winter squashes that we use. And the winter squashes consist of butternut, buttercup, delicata, and a number of other ones in betweens. And the pumpkins are also are wide varieties of them, but they only grow up until late October. Some people harvest them early November, and you can use them just like how you use pumpkins. And their leaves are also edible too. So it is one of that substitute that you can substitute. If you want pumpkin and you don't have it, you can use the squashes here to substitute for that. And it gives you the same beautiful sweet flavor and texture.
One of the other things that we're touching on right now is substitutes. How do we utilize that off season? So, for instance, again, we talk about the squash. A lot of people, use a lot of soups. In the wintertime, you don't necessarily use a lot of heavy food because you're not as agile as you would be in the summer. So you talk about soups. Now you incorporate that with the leek, which is of course a family to the green onions that they call scallion in Jamaica. You want to make a soup with that or a stew, so you incorporate those two. We can expand on that in terms of using the same squash and we shred it. And those of us who have a dehydrator, whatever means we have to literally dehydrate the product, then we can use that and combine the leek and other herbs and even other foods and make a soup with that. Especially for babies and stuff, it's processed, but in a very natural way, and you still have all the enzymes and the everything intact, so you don't have to worry about the nutrients. You're getting that anyways. It's just that it's dehydrated. When you're ready for it, dehydrate it and you're good to go.
A lot of us, when we eat out or we go to family, our friends' events, food events, one of the dishes that they make here during the fall season, when we have abundance of squash and leeks, they make this leek and potato soup. And for people who have had it, I've eaten it and it tastes quite well. You really taste the flavor of the leek because the potato is bland. It doesn't have any flavor. It's just bland. But the leek brings out this flavor in the soup that makes you want to drink more of it. And leek is a food that actually when it gets colder, We as melanated people, our blood thickens. And so what the leek does for us, it keeps our blood limber. It keeps the blood loose. So it's a great vegetable, my people, to eat during the colder months, particularly if you eat a lot of meat. Leeks are a great additive to your diet and in your dishes. So we're talking about the leek again, and for many people in the from the African culture, we like to eat lots of meats. Many of us don't like to eat vegetables, but the leek itself has a wide variety of benefits, health benefits, and one of it, I can tell you from my own experience, if I eat too much greens, my blood starts to thicken and I literally feel it pulling. When I If I'm going to eat a salad, a green salad, and I chop up leek in the green salad and I eat it, I feel my blood loosening instantaneously. And so what it does, it helps to make the blood limber, not as thick. The greens carry a lot of vitamin K, and K thickens your blood, makes it very strong. My grandmother used to have that problem. When she goes to the doctor to do a blood test, to pull blood from her, they literally had to prep her like for 2 weeks to loosen up her blood before they can pull it through the needle. And I know that a lot of us still have that problem, so we're on blood thinners and stuff. I like to do it the natural way, so I found a vegetable that does it for me, and leek is that vegetable. We eat leek in the winter time because it is a winter vegetable and it makes a lot of soups. You can add it to seasoning, you can put it in your stew. I usually like chop up pieces in my salad and I add it to my green salad when I want to eat more greens in the winter because it works for me.
So the leek is a very interesting product. It's a very interesting herb. I call it a herb. So Jacqueline touched on the whole issue around blood thinners in the winter time, but you talk about the shelf life of the product, and this is where we go. Again, we mentioned earlier about dehydrating the squash. You can do the same thing with the leek, and so you don't get it in a fresh form where you could make a paste from it because it's green. Now you dehydrate it; it's dry. You don't consume a lot of it because it's dehydrated because you incorporate that with a lot of herbs, and so you do that with maybe scallion, more onions, thyme, tarragon, basil, and you make a powder out of that. You can use the same powder now, incorporate that in your soup because it's seasoned. You're going to put that on your meat. So you see the difference? In the wintertime, you have the leek in that form. It's green. It's it's a product that is it's has diverse use, and so it's just to differentiate the use of it in opposed to summer and winter. So if you notice, we are talking about substituting the stuff that we grow in the summertime. Now, kale is one of them vegetables that a lot of people like, and so again, we can use it also in the winter time. You have different varieties of kale. I'll just touch on two varieties. So you have the black kale, which is called a dino kale, and you have the curly leaf kale. You have Dacobor, you have vase, and that's a curly leaf kale. Now, a lot of people might not necessarily want to have kale in a salad form in the winter. But then again, we go back to dehydrating that. You make kale chips. Most of our children, they might not like kale that way in terms of, having a salad. I don't like it. It's not sweet, whatever. You make a chip, you add whatever the ingredients are, and there you go. They can consume it that way. So we're looking at stuff that can be grown in the summertime, and when the season is done, you're not worrying, oh, am I gonna get this again? Because there's so many diverse ways to use it and still have it in the winter time. So that's one way in terms of the kale. Dehydrate it, make a chip out of it, and you can dehydrate it also, and you can make a powder and incorporate that with your leek. There's so many ways to do it, and we are still keeping everything intact there.
So we're still on the topic of substitution, and so another powerful vegetable, two powerful vegetables I'm gonna bring to the forefront. One is the amaranth. We affectionately call it kalaloo, which is a dish we make from it in Jamaica. Here in the seasonal environment, the dino kale is a perfect substitute for the kalaloo. It is beautiful and green. It is nutritious and dexterous, and it's also very resilient like the kalaloo. And so, in the spring of this season, you would use the dino kale as a substitute for the kalaloo. The kalaloo is not ready until around late July, August, when you can start to harvest. You can start to harvest it, cut it, and so that it springs back and continue to give you more right through the season until it gets cold. It's very flavorful. You can use it in diverse ways. Put it in your soup. You can add it to your stew. I juice the kalaloo when I have it. I put it through my extractor with a local apple that is not sprayed and sweeten it up. And it's a great way to drink it, to again multiply red blood cells in your body if you're low on iron and low on blood and you want to build your blood quantity. It's a great vegetable to do that. So, and the dino kale is the same way. A lot of people use it. They make smoothie, they make salad, they steam it, and they use it in the space of how they would use the kalaloo to add value, nutrients, and taste to their dish. So we're now talking about, extending the shelf life of our produce. And so the leek is something, it's like a scallion, much bigger and thicker, much bolder flavors in it. And so to extend the life of the leek, you can clean it and literally peel the leaves back and wash the clay off of it because it grows in the ground. It's a heavy feeder like the garlic. Um, you wash it, you cut it down the middle, and you put it whether on a cutting board in your kitchen and let it stay there and dry for a couple of days. And once it's dry till it's really crispy, you take it and you put it in a jar or a large container like a canister, and you can rub them together and get powder out of it. You can add other dried herbs to it, and you can leave it in the jar and shake them around. And when you want to use like a special seasoning that you know what's in there, it is the leek with other herbs, maybe dried onions and scallions, and you can make a beautiful natural herb for your meats, your salad, and even your stews in the winter, fall, summer, and spring.
I would imagine that 90% of what you grow in the summer can be extended into the winter and beyond. Most people, especially from the Caribbean, they love pepper. Uh, Trinidad uses the pimento spice pepper. In Jamaica and other spaces, they use the Scotch bonnet. And there's another one, the bird pepper. It's really, really hot. So, but we'll just focus on the Scotch bonnet and the pimento spice pepper. One of the ways, two ways to do that. At least we have done it that way. There may be other ways. You can make a pickle out of that. You can add the chocho, what they call chocho. You can put onions. You can put leek, your basils, all the different herbs, tarragon, sage, you name it, in a bottle with some vinegar, a little bit of salt. Some people might use citrus acid to kind of keep it, a little bit more. Or you could put a little bit of olive oil. But that's a pickle right there, and and you can use that right through the season. The other way to use it also is to dehydrate it, dry it out, and you can make a powder out of it. That's the Scotch bonnet pepper, and the pimento spice pepper. We can go for beets. We can go for carrots. Same scenario as we had mentioned with the squash. When it comes to cabbages, you can also do that. There are so many different varieties of cabbages. So there are some cabbages that is short. The period of time that you have its storage is a short storage. There are others that is extended. So we look for the ones that can go for a few months, and you put it in a cool space. Those of us who have homes or houses, I should say, you can put it in your basement in a cool, dark place, and that will be of use for a couple of months. If you don't want to do that, you can freeze it, cut it up in fine, little, chunks, and you freeze that, applying herbs, a little salt, and when you're ready to use it, it's good to go. So in a very simplistic way, but it's very effective. And in terms of saving money, you don't have to run to the store all the while, because the stuff that you grow or you bought in the summer, you can still expand on that, extend the life of that, and utilize that as you go. We're focusing on dehydrating your food. We will touch on the brassicas for first. So the brassicas meaning like the kale. Some people use sischard, but I'll focus on the kale. Now you can use your oven. You can use a conventional dehydrator or the sun. The sun is one of the most effective one. But I guess we're living in Canada. We are not living in in an equatorial a space where the sun is shining all the time. So okay, so we're here in Canada. You look at the dehydrator or your oven. The dehydrator is more effective in terms of the time. So it has a timer, and it breaks down everything based on what you're dehydrating. So it's easier, and I go for the easiest part of it. But if you're using your oven, you don't have a dehydrator. Take for instance, you're doing, say, your kale to make chips. You put it at you put it at 350, I think it is, in your dehydrator, and that will go for about 16 hours. Very, very slow. If you're doing your oven, it might last a longer time, because you cannot, if you put it up to 350, you're going to burn it. You're going to cook it until it's just crispy burn. And you literally have to be opening your oven back and forth just to check it. If you have a thermometer, that might be can help you until you perfect it. So I'm not putting it out there that the best way, the most effective way is to use your oven, but that's an alternative to your dehydrator if you don't have one. So I would imagine that you literally check it to make sure you don't burn it, you don't kill it, because you can eat dead food, no nutrients, because it's overcooked or dehydrated to the point where it's so burnt up, it does that flavor is lost.
So another vegetable that another leafy green that we can also dehydrate. We take off the leaves. It's the callaloo, and the callaloo is a very nutritious vegetable. You can steam it. You can make a stir fry out of it. You can add it to stuffing for your fish if you eat fish with other vegetable. To dehydrate the callaloo, you take off their leaves, you wash them, you dry them, and you set them flat in whatever you're going to dehydrate it in. And I'd say you put it at about um, maybe 80 degrees in your oven or less. And it takes its time, and it takes the liquid out of it slowly. So, as Noel spoke earlier, you cannot use it like how you use your oven regularly. What you have to do is to keep adjusting the temperature in your oven so it gets to the right temperature, um, that it allows it to take the water out without burning it. It keeps all the nutrients and the color of the leaf intact. And then you can add that dehydrated callaloo. You can, again, create your own dry mix. with all your other dehydrated vegetables, and you can make a lovely, you can add it to stir fries, you can add it to soup, or you can just rehydrate it again and add it to fresh, other fresh green leafy vegetable. And you will definitely taste the difference in when you rehydrate it, that the life of it comes back into the plant because you taste the flavor of it when you're eating it. That's one of the key things when we eat vegetables. We need to feel and taste the flavor of it. And when you rehydrate food, you get that flavor in it to the surface.
Still on the topic of dehydrating, and one of the favorites is tomatoes. And a lot of people can't eat certain tomatoes because it's so acidic. You can get around that somewhat if you dehydrate it. You can put it in a pickle if you want, but when you dehydrate your tomato, the flavor is intact. You can taste it and that texture. So I would encourage everyone, if you don't, the off season when you can't get tomatoes anymore and you're a lover of tomatoes, dehydrate your tomatoes. You can add all the seasons that we talk about. There are no limits to the season. You can use your sage, your tarragon, your thyme, your onions, what else, basil, and just incorporate that, your leek, into that, and that flavor is phenomenal. You love it. And if you don't love it, call me.
As we are rounding off the topic of dehydration, one thing I want to share with the audience is that when we have all these vegetables and sometimes we're really and truly busy and we don't have the time to really get intimate with them, you literally, as Noel just shared with you, you can put maybe 5 or 4 vegetables in a pan. You can slice them very thinly and let them stay and dehydrate them. Season them and dehydrate them. And what you do with that finished product is that it becomes a base to making homemade soup. And it will be like, you go and you buy those instant soups. You can make your own instant soup. You can add to the mix, you add your leafy greens, you can add zucchini, you can add sweet potato, but you have to cut them very, very thin. Um, your herbs, and you know, some people don't use salt. You can sprinkle a little bit of salt. You can add dry herbs to it. You can, again, drizzle a little bit of cold pressed oil and just let it stay there and do its thing. And then once you finish with this product, you put it in a nice big clear jar so you can see it. And when you put it on your counter, and if you come home and you feel really tired and you don't want to do a lot of cooking, it's a great way to rehydrate it and make a very quick soup from it. And it's very nutritious. Once you rehydrate it, you'll taste all the flavors waking back up into the vegetables.
So we talk about food, and there's food, and there's food. We've been hearing about organic food and opposed to genetically modified food. How would you identify something that is genetically modified from one that is organic? We call it clean. The Black Farmers Collective call it clean because you're getting into the practices. You could have money. I don't have any money. We both have farms. Because you have money, you can certify your farm. And so all of a sudden, you're telling the public that you grow organic foods, fruits, and vegetables. But I look at the practices because I might not have any money, but my practice is totally different because I'm not using pesticides and herbicides and all the different sides. And so when you go into the stores and you see foods, vegetables, and they're so presentable, they look clean, there are no holes in the kale, the Swiss chard, everything look intact, they're shiny looking. Wow, it's attractive. And so you want to buy that. On the other side of you, you see some holes in it and you're like, wow. But guess what? The bugs, the pests love the one that the holes are in because it's not sprayed. You know, you're going to the cornfields anywhere on the highway, you're driving and see this huge, like acres and acres of corn, and there's not one bird in it. You know, you know what's going on there. So we could get into this and we could talk for hours. But say, take for instance, you get into the store, your supermarket, and you're used to all just picking up your stuff at your fingertips. It's, you know, at your convenience, and they are all numbers. Most of your stuff, like the apples, has numbers. The pears, the kale, most of what you're buying has numbers. So one has maybe 9 4 something starts off, or 8. The others have 4 0 something. The ones with 4 0 is considered to be genetically modified. The ones with 9 is organic or clean. So these are some of the things that you look for. And I guarantee you, when you put those two together, so you buy a bunch of kale that is genetically modified, you buy another bunch of kale that is organic or clean, when you use it to make a salad or you cook, you're going to taste the difference. You will taste the difference if the practices are what the guy who says he has an organic farm, if his practices are, you know, ethical. If that doesn't happen, then there are stores that all they carry is organic, and we think economically sometimes it's overrated, and this is why our approach is very modest. We try to give people the best, um, and also that is affordable. And so you're going to the store, and most people tell us that I can't afford a bunch of kale because it's organic and it's so expensive. Yes, a lot of places do, you have to pay a lot for it. And so these are some of the things that we have to look for. So I encourage us to educate ourselves, in knowing your food chain, or knowing the value. And if you want to get the real value from your food, try to stay away from stuff that, like your grapes, no seed. I look at bananas, no seed, and they tell me that it's organic. Um, there's so many stuff out there that is labeled organic, but it has no seeds. And so we have to start looking seriously as to how we consume stuff. Know your farmer, know your source. It's very important. And we're going to talk some more about that.
So we continue to speak about fruits now that are seedless. We see a lot of seedless grapes in the market. We see seedless citrus. We also see seedless watermelons. I'm not telling people not to buy it because it's what people have access to. But when you are able to get better quality, you buy seeded watermelon. The seeds in the watermelon helps your body to rid itself of pests. So if for some people in Jamaica, a lot of Jamaicans don't eat pork because they say it's full of worm, and it's true. You can experiment with that at some other time. You'll see the worms in it physically. So if you're eating these things, a part of the plantation mentality for African people that they brought here was to give them a lot of pork and a lot of starch. And so when you eat things like seeded watermelon, it protects you because it rids your body of the pests coming from these foods. And it also, for men, it's very good for their prostate. Has a lot, again, minerals and nutrients that protects you. Um, and it's also very good with water. You have a lot of, it's very soluble. So when you eat it, your body digests it very quickly. Seeded citrus is vital, very, very vital. The seeds have disinfecting agents naturally in it that when you either juice it with the seeds or sometimes you eat it and you swallow the seeds, what it does for your body, it's that it disinfects your immune system and it powers it up. So it's good to eat seeded citrus. Um, Grapes, another powerful fruit. I love grapes. And I won't eat them if they don't have seeds. In the seeds of the grape, it has omegas in it that helps to clean your inside just like you would take a shower on the outside. If the grape doesn't have any seed, I don't know what the benefit of it is just to eat the grape. When you if you get seeded grapes, you should actually run it through an extractor, and you will notice on top you'll have about this much of fatty acid in its natural form. Your body needs that, your cells need that, your brain needs that, your eyes need that, your connecting tissues need that. And it also needs to help to keep your system clean and flowing. And your gut needs that. Your gut is this is your immune system in your gut. And if you're not giving it what it needs, it will malfunction and you will get sick. So, if you are going to the store to buy something and you feel that everything is the same, all food is not the same. And what we're eating, for a lot of us, we're just trying to survive. If you're able to, um, find a source where you can get organic food. Use that money to buy good, healthy, clean food, put in your system, and re regulate your system. And also give your body what it needs. Because when your body is lacking, you start to feel the pull here, the push there, your system telling you, I don't want that, I want this. And you also start to see the difference when you start adding the things in your diet that your body needs. Your body's telling you thank you. So I'm not here to tell you that you shouldn't do this. Um, I'm only giving you information that you can use to weigh and measure for yourself. Because 100 years ago is different from 2020 as it pertains to food, what we're eating, what we have access to, and what we can afford. So thank you, our great audience, for watching, taking the time, spending the time with us to learn about what's going on with this food system. There is so much more that we could talk about, but we'll leave it at there for now. Um, you can reach out to us via email. We are at blackfarmersto@gmail.com. You can also call us on our Black Farmers phone. It is 416-457-3403. We are at 70 Canuck Avenue in Downsview Park at the Keel and Shepherd side of the park. We are in the middle greenhouse. You enter from the farm entrance, which is the field entrance. You can also go on our website and look at what we're doing or what we've posted there. And it is tbfcto.webstarts.com. We also have another website. It is blackfarmerscollective.ca. Check us out there. And again, we welcome you to come and see an urban farm in action and actually look at clean food growing from a grower and a farmer's perspective. Thank you.